Good morning. How many times have you and I heard stories about people who went shopping at a local thrift store where they purchased an item for just a few dollars, only to discover that that teacup or that painting is worth thousands of dollars? Can you imagine a $3 painting being worth $5, $10, $15, perhaps even $20,000? Perhaps these stories would compel you to open your own thrift store. I want us to take a few minutes this morning to better understand the basic operation of a thrift store. My name is Larry Manzella, and I presently operate some 14 thrift stores in the Chicagoland area. Today I want to give you some insight into what goes into setting up and running your own store. Briefly, let's look at the four main issues that will determine whether or not you can open and then successfully operate a thrift store operation. These four areas are: number one, choosing a location; number two, arranging your layout; number three, pricing your product; and number four, your rotation system. First, let's look at choosing a location. You're going to want to select a location that has a high traffic count. Cars provide visibility, and visibility promotes sales. When selecting your location, always try to get as close as possible to the place where other people are already shopping. Shopping centers are already drawing people into that area. The number one rule is don't set up shop where your customers cannot find you. Number two, arranging your layout. 70% of what you will sell in your thrift store will be women's clothes. When you do your layout, be sure to put the women's clothing racks at the front of the store. Create store sections, such as the baby section, the women's section, men's, and a household department. Books and tapes are always best when placed at the back of the store. Remember to create a space of at least 4 feet between your aisles so that folks can get in and out with their carts. The third item is pricing your product. This is so important. If your prices are too high or too low, your store operation is going to be in trouble. The average price of an item sold in most thrift stores is generally between $2.30 and $2.80. You can go higher or you can go lower, but the important thing is that you maintain the average. Software can be purchased to help you with this important task. Most people will not purchase a used shirt for $5 when they know they can go down to the local Walmart and purchase it brand new for $3.99. The fourth item is the rotation of your product. You must have a system that will allow you to rotate your product on and off of your shelves. Most stores use a colored tag system, which means hanging and removing a different color every week. If you don't rotate the product on a regular basis, your regular customers are going to know it, and they're going to want to shop somewhere else. There are, of course, many other things that you need to be aware of prior to opening your own store. You're going to need to study product acquisition, staffing, accounting procedures, and so much more. However, the 4 points that we've discussed today will determine whether or not you can be successful in the operation of your store. Let's review what we discussed. Number one, choose a good location. Select a location that has a high traffic count. Remember, cars provide visibility. Visibility promotes sales. Don't set up shop where no one can find you. Number two, arranging your layout. 70% of what you sell will be to the ladies. So when you do your layout, be sure to put the women's clothing racks at the front of your store. Create store sections. Remember, we talked about baby department, women's department, men's, and a household. The third item was pricing your product. If your prices are too high or too low, your store operation is going to be in trouble. Do you recall the average price of an item sold in most stores? Remember that it's generally $2.20 to $2.80 per item. You can go higher or you can go lower, but be careful to maintain the average. The fourth item we talked about was the rotation of your product. Most stores use a colored tagging system, which means hanging and removing a different color every week. if you don't rotate the product, your regular customers are going to know it, and they're going to shop somewhere else. Finally, in closing, let's be honest. The operation of a thrift store is a lot of work, but it can also be very rewarding. If you follow the instructions given, paying close attention to the 4 principal things that we discussed today: location, layout, pricing, and rotation, you can be on your way to being the owner of a successful store. Who knows, maybe one of those priceless teacups or a great work of art will find its way into your store.